Welcome back, everyone, to Stay in Your Lane. I'm your host, John Maley. Podcast is brought to you by Triple T Transport. Got two of my faves on today. I have a lot of favorites, but Thomas Moore, everyone, founder of AutoScheduler. Got three companies going now. Thomas, we got subject matter for today is going to be, I think, near and dear to everyone's heart in our transportation industry, which is going to be what's going to happen with diesel fuel prices for 2024. I saw in September they were projected to be just over $4 for the year average and supposed to be some reprieve from 23 into 24, but don't know if I buy that.
And I don't know that I buy it either. Talking with people who are in the know, they're telling me, look, if you want to buy diesel and get futures, buy them now. I said, because they think the future is looking like this is the bottom of the market, and we'll be seeing nothing but an uptick going forward. As with all predictions, you never can be quite sure that they're going to be right. If a lot of people gambling on both sides of the equation, but overall you can see a potential for the whole price of oil and the underlying crude itself going up.
Joe, what do you got to say?
I would agree. I think the indicators are out there. I believe that hopefully we don't have a black swan event or anything, but what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on in this country with lack of people wanting to drill oil, and so I think you got a few things going on. So I could see it going up also.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me pick up on a couple of those things, Joe. The first is one of the principal things that constrain oil prices or manage oil prices is the fact that the Saudis have got an extensive social welfare program. They have to fund that, and they need oil to be a good high price. And if they see the oil price sliding, they don't want to have political unrest in their own country, so they're going to do their best to keep that oil price up. And if you've looked at the underlying crude price, I mean, sometimes it dips just down below 70, but it's always coming back up above 70. It's always, that 70 seems to be the resistance level, to use a stock market phrase. And if we can keep things moving further north, the Saudis will be very, very happy. In terms of drilling for oil, one of the most productive areas is the whole Texas shale. And one of the things that I didn't know about until I spoke with an expert was that not only do we have one layer of shale, they've found there's a second layer of shale about another 1,000 feet below that. And that second layer of shale also contains oil and gas, which really it's a great finding from their perspective. So you've got the Wolfcamp Shale, you've got the Sprayberry Shale, and you've got the Barnett Shale, all pretty much in the same general area in Texas, and they're layered one upon the top above the other. So that has a opportunity. And the other thing that's happening, and everyone uses that concept of rig count, how many rigs are going, and therefore, right, that tells you how much we're drilling. Now, it used to. Today, we use the same rig to drill multiple holes. And the way they're doing it is because they're doing a lot of horizontal drilling, and 5 years ago, they were maybe going 1 mile horizontally. Now they're going 3 miles horizontally. And they go horizontally north, and then they go horizontally south. Then they move the rig just by skidding it a few feet, and again running a new set of holes north and south. Interesting approach to managing this, but think about the efficiency of moving a rig. It's much easier to move it feet rather than miles, and that's one of the things that has basically driven I'll say rig count to be less important. And the last point in this whole area is that these drillers need oil to be north of $60 a barrel. Okay, and $60 a barrel is below that. It starts to get a little difficult for them to finance putting holes in the ground. So they've got an incentive also not to drill too much, to keep oil, I'll call it, on that plateau or above that plateau. So a lot of different things going on in the marketplace. Really an interesting set of discussions being had. But there are a couple of other areas you might want to talk about. Number one is, how good is West Texas Intermediate, which is the oil that we're producing today, at producing diesel? And the answer is, it's okay. It's not as good as some of the sour crudes, and our refineries have been set up for sour crudes. But it's also not being able to be moved as much up to, for example, the Northeast, because of constraints on two things. One, pipelines, and number two, the Jones Act of 1920. Okay, and that Jones Act of 1920 prevents boats moving product from Texas up to the Northeast unless those boats were built in the United States and have crews that are US-based crews. So you say, hold on, we've got this pernicious America First program, which is adding cost to oil, and as a result, those refineries in the Northeast have to bring their oil in from overseas. At a time when we're exporting oil and liquefied gas out of Texas, we can't send it to, for example, Boston when they run short on gas. So they're buying liquid gas from Kuwait because they simply can't find a Jones Act ship that will in fact work in that environment. So I've said a lot there. Sorry, John, let me let you get back to asking questions.
Well, no, I mean, I think all of those things are vital. They're all, I would say, adding some volatility to the picture. Now, this is the United States. And in 104 years, or 100 years or so since the Jones Act, we haven't been able to build a ship in the United States and staff it with U.S. workers and take oil to the Northeast. Is that basically what you've said?
Nobody has found the economics viable to do that, correct?
That's interesting.
And if you look at the impact of the Jones Act, where's one of the most expensive places you can ship containers? Hawaii. It's cheaper to ship a container to China and back to Hawaii than it is just to ship it directly to Hawaii.
Right. The only thing coming off of Hawaii is garbage, trash, waste.
Yeah, but it's still cheaper because of again, the Jones Act. The same is true in going to Puerto Rico, right?
Right.
These transportation rates are artificially jacked up by this Jones Act. There's huge economies to be had if we just allow foreign-built ships and foreign crews to move product among our domestic ports.
Yeah, I don't want to date myself, but when I first got into this business, there used to be movements from the port of New York down to the port of Houston, and vice versa. We used to bring up plastic pellets from Houston up to New York for Celanese, and at the same and then there used to be. I mean, I can't. This is hard to believe, but there used to be movements from Virginia through the Panama Canal to the West Coast. Again, at the time they were on U.S. boats, but the economics surely did not work, and they didn't last too long. I got into the 80s, so I was probably in the 70s.
Wow.
So Tom is absolutely correct. I mean, the economics are not there for U.S. flagships and U.S. flagships that are crewed by U.S. citizens. Economics don't seem to work at all.
The other constraint we see is the number of refineries. Now, are refineries, have they become a large percentage more efficient like the drilling wells?
Who wants to build a refinery, right? It's
Right.
hugely expensive. We're talking billions. It is hugely, I call it risky, given we're down on fossil fuels, we don't want to have any more fossil fuels, therefore, da 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 da.
Right.
And now you say to business people, hey, let's invest in expanding a current refinery, and they go, well, there's an expense to doing that. Now, having said that, Exxon just increased one of their refineries down in the Texas area by, I think, 300,000 barrels a day, which is a huge number. Okay, it's a huge number.
Well, I think I would agree with Tom. I mean, I think it's been since the 1940s or 1950s since they built even a small refinery on the West Coast. I mean, the economics are just not there. I mean, we used to bring up a lot of oil used to come up from Venezuela and from that area, and I believe one of those refineries either closed or was seriously cut back. So I mean, there's a lot of negatives about refining fuel, and to Tom's point, it's guys say it's cheaper. Let's bring it in from Europe. Let's bring it in from other markets.
We talk about things that will irritate or cause diesel prices to go up. When you make gasoline, diesel's a byproduct, or vice versa. When you make diesel, gasoline's a byproduct, correct?
Yeah, not quite. When you're taking crude, and depending on the
type of crude, right?
Type of crude, etc., and the way the refinery is configured, you have the ability to kind of adjust some dials. So say, I want more gasoline or I want more diesel. You can make those things happen, because essentially what you're doing is taking a liquid and distilling it into different pieces, and then taking some of those pieces and using what's called a catalytic cracker, to break more complex hydrocarbons down to simpler hydrocarbons. This has been extensively modeled over the years. I mean, when I was a student, we were studying what we called refinery models, which were large linear programs that looked at how you ran a refinery and how you managed it. And you managed it to maximize return, and that return might change based on the relative price of diesel versus gasoline, or butane versus some of the intermediate liquids. So you've got a huge variety of things that come out of a refinery, all the way down to wax that goes into candles, right? And these wax is a very important byproduct of refining.
Absolutely.
We use Vaseline, to use the commercial name, petroleum jelly. Where does that come from? Well, refining. So you've got a number of things that are outputs from that one barrel of crude. And the interesting thing that you should also know is that when you crack a barrel of crude, you actually expand the volume of that. So you put in essentially 100%, and you come out with more than 100% at the other end.
Right.
And that's truly mind-boggling, frankly. But fundamentally, you can determine what you want based on some optimization criteria. I want more gas. I want more diesel. Okay, boom. I make those adjustments to the dials. Away we go.
So realistically, if diesel's going to go up, because it looks like now's the time to buy, for everybody listening, diesel's going to go up. Anticipate and plan for it. Expect it. Tires are going to go up. Windshield wiper blades are going to go up. Anything that is manufactured from that barrel is going to get more expensive for the American.
Continue watching on the next episode of the Stay in Your Lane podcast.